All right, we are live. Hello, everybody here on Substack. I'm live with comedian buddy Cliff Cash, who is clearly joining us from his van in the woods. Cliff, where are you? I mean, don't give your exact location because you've made some some red hat enemies. So
Yeah,
around where are you?
I'm actually just off the highway. I kept driving and driving, and I was like, I'm gonna find a good place to, a coffee shop or whatever. And I'm just kind of in the middle of nowhere. So finally, I just stopped at a Love's truck stop. I'm
Perfect.
using my other phone to create a hotspot for this phone that is messing up on me. Long story. One of those
All right.
days.
I can't wait till it suddenly loses signal. Thanks for trying to make it work anyway, though. Much
Here.
appreciated. For anybody who does not know, Cliff Cash, fellow comedian, fellow progressive, fellow agitator, also fellow North Carolinian. Now that I am one, even though I wasn't
Yeah.
before, but it counts
Welcome.
now. Thank you. And yeah, happy to have you on because there are so many comedians who are not using their platform to try to fight this garbage.
Yeah.
And it is, in fact, I think some comedians are responsible for it. So my first question to you is what compels you to speak out against this administration?
Honestly, I get asked that question a lot, and it's kind of a little bit hard for me to answer it because it wasn't even a thought process. It was like it just didn't occur to me not to.
Yeah,
It's like a reflex, knee jerk kind of like if you're gonna kidnap anyone with a tan and send them to a death camp, of course I'm gonna say something. If you're
yeah,
gonna mock disabled people, of course I'm gonna say something. If you're gonna marginalize gay and trans and queer people, of course I'm gonna say something. So it's just I think it's kind of my personality, strong opinions and the inability to be quiet about them.
yeah.
A- And then when I saw so few people speaking up, or I mean, I've been talking shit to and about these people for a very long time. But in this current moment in history, seeing so many people not speak up and not say or do anything, including our elected leaders in large part, it kind of made me feel more obligated um, and more motivated to say and do something because something needs to be said and done, and it just doesn't seem to be happening a lot.
Y- Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you that question because it's one that I get often as well. And the story that I give people to try to illustrate it is I once stopped for a coffee on my way to a gig, and one of the coffee shop's patio umbrellas had blown up onto the roof. And this thing's got like a stake at the bottom of it, probably probably a 10-foot tall pole. And it's just like if this thing fell off the roof onto someone, that was it for them, vampire
Yeah,
or otherwise. And there's a whole bunch of people just kind of staring up at the roof, just like, "Well, yeah, this is a problem." And I walk into the coffee shop and I go, "Hey, do you have a ladder in the back?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, great. Can I have it?" And so they gave me the ladder. I climbed up on the roof. I passed the umbrella down to somebody. I walked back in. They gave me a free coffee and I said thanks and I left. And I think that is the difference. It did not occur to me to not get that umbrella down. Like it was
yeah,
one of those things where I'm like, "Hey, I have height privilege. Like I can reach that easier than most. So why not use it to try to help?" And
sure,
I think there are a lot of people that stand around looking. And there are some people that stand around looking, going, "Well, what do we do?" And there are some people standing around looking, going, "Well, it's not my problem." And I think those of us who are the doers need to do.
totally. And I think a lot of people, you and I, if we did just shut up and keep our heads down, you know, we would fare as good as anybody, being that we're relatively privileged white men in a bluish purple state. But and I think a lot of people are kind of thinking that way, like, yeah, this isn't ideal, but It's probably not going to affect me that much. And, it all depends on how bad it gets. But
Yeah.
if it gets real bad, your whiteness isn't going to save you. Your privilege certainly isn't going to save you. And I mean, places like Russia, which I feel like most of these authoritarian regimes are loosely or closely modeled from. In Russia, not only will your wealth not save you, if Vladimir Putin doesn't like you, he'll just kill you or imprison you and take everything you have.
Yeah.
That's how he became one of the richest men in the world. He arrested the richest man in Russia, took everything he had, and put him in prison. Um, so, a lot of these rich white Republicans think that they're part of the gang, and it's like, yeah, you're part of the gang, and so you're not. You
Yeah.
better hope you don't piss off one of these Nazis. They'll just take your shit from you.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are, especially in the States, are privileged and sheltered and sort of spoiled. We've had whatever, 200 plus years, or almost 200 years since Civil War, whatever it is, 160. Um, and then we've had a couple hundred years of mostly abundance, and, we're isolated by oceans, and we just don't experience what Gaza is experiencing now, like destroyed cities, or even the cities that we've destroyed as a country in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. And so we think that kind of stuff can't come here just because it never has. And maybe we're right to some degree. Hopefully that kind of stuff doesn't happen. But just because it never has doesn't mean that it can't.
Yeah.
And
I
um and people just don't think. They think that it's hyperbole when we're saying this is a dictatorship, this is authoritarianism, this is the end of American democracy. I think even a lot of progressive people think that's exaggeration or melodrama, and it's not. It's really not. And
yeah,
it'll happen in a,
I just anyone who thinks that we're safe from it should look at pictures of Baghdad in the 1950s.
yeah.
Like, just to us, it is unimaginable that that there are cities that are currently under authoritarian rule. That's the word.
Either one, I think.
There are cities that literally someone just puts authoritarianism in the comments as I'm struggling to find the right form of the word. There are cities that to us could never be like America because we always see them as under that kind of rule. And, you look at relatively recent history from when my parents were already alive and they were just like any city in America. And so if it's that quick, I mean, Germany went from like being pacifists to fascists back to pacifists in under 100 years. And that can happen to us too. And I hope it doesn't.
Really.
My next question for you, though, is do you miss it? And when I say it, I mean going on stage and just being able to be silly. Like, do you miss that as a comedian?
Yeah, and I'm actually working this hour right now. So I've put out two specials since last October.
Yeah.
I put out one in October and one this past June, and I'm gonna get this next one out before the end of this. So I'm gonna have three specials out in 12 months, and the first two are pretty much political start to finish, and this third one is kind of just silly, um, and partly because I already did all the political material that I kind of could think of.
Oh, they'll give you
Um,
more.
yeah, they'll give me more, but I don't know. I'm not somebody that I don't write a joke that day about something that happened in the current
Yeah.
event, and it's like then it's polished enough to take on stage. Um, but I had all this other material that didn't make it into these other two specials. I wouldn't. I'm tempted to call them hours, but one of them is 99 minutes. Um, I am superfluous in my whole life. It's like one of my strengths as a comedian. It was a liability my entire life like, this guy won't shut the fuck up. And then I became a comedian, and they're like, "You're prolific." Like, nobody's ever called me that. I've gotten annoying, talkative, hyperactive, never prolific.
I like that those
Um,
are, in a way, synonyms in our profession.
totally. All of my liabilities became assets when I decided to be a comedian. Being a night
Yeah.
owl, being an insomniac, having a sort of a little bit of mild bipolar and, writing from a place of pain and being ADHD and being, overly talkative but so this new hour is, like, really silly, and, I'm on my way to film a special in Colorado this coming Sunday, and so I'm driving across the country from North Carolina to Colorado, and I'm doing 5 house shows on the way to Colorado. So, the last night was the 4th one. We have a day off. Tomorrow is the 5th one, and almost at every house show, at least one person has said, "I thought this was gonna be, like, more political, like, more going after Trump," and I'm like, "It's not that I don't want to, I kinda did 2 hours of it already this year, and this is the silly stuff that didn't make it into the other hours." So
Yeah.
I'm enjoying just like you said, long answer to a short question, but
Oh, we're losing him a little bit. I don't know if that's my internet or if that's Cliff's internet, but if he's hotspotting, it might be his. I'm not sure. Hopefully, he rejoins us. But to kind of echo what Cliff was saying, I joy is a form of resistance, and I think that part of that. Hopefully, he'll be able to join again. And I think one thing that we need to remember is that we are allowed to have fun. We do need to live our lives. There were a lot of people online, and I understand that people online often can be the worst. I say to an audience of people online, hello. When Taylor Swift announced her new album, people were getting on her about, like, how dare you do something so frivolous in a time like this? And it's like, it's not frivolous to enjoy yourself. It's not frivolous to live your life. It is not frivolous to bring others joy. And, I think that artists do need to speak out, but we also need to create art that is an escape from this as well. I know that a lot of the set that I have been doing lately hasn't been political. It is written from a progressive perspective. And unfortunately, the special that's coming out in a couple days is about mental health, which has become political and certainly should not be. And now some of the stuff I'm talking about is the fact that Savannah's pregnant. And that is something that's political because, we live within walking distance of South Carolina. If we lived just over the border, then if, God forbid, she miscarried, that would be a criminal offense, which is just insane to me. So, and someone said here that Cliff rejoined. All right, let me see if I can add him back in. And so we do have to fight back, and part of fighting back is not shutting up, and part of fighting back is, enjoying ourselves and I guess just living. I think that that's important too. Cliff's trying to join right now. I just re-invited him. And thanks everybody for joining us, by the way. I'm sorry that Cliff is clearly a survivalist in the woods with no internet. But no, he's on his way to record a special in Colorado. I'm assuming Denver. I didn't even ask, but I assume Denver. Anyway, for those of you in Colorado, go check it out. And for those in general, just, if you follow me already, please give Cliff a follow as well. I know we have a lot of overlapping audience. That's just kind of natural. But for those who don't yet, go shoot him a follow. Cliff, if your internet is not allowing this, that is okay. Let's do another one of these another time. And that would be cool too. For anyone in the comments, before I say, Cliff's coming. He's back.
hey, sorry about that.
Where'd you end up? Different part of the parking lot?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Um, I have my battery-powered fan blowing cool air on me.
Oh
No,
my
what it was
god.
is I had the phone on the dash, and it got too hot,
Oh no.
and it did the
Oh,
temperature thing, so I had to hold it in front of the fan to cool it down, but I'm back.
excellent. Excellent. Welcome back, and we'll try to keep this fairly short so you don't have to you don't have to, rely on the elements to keep your phone from conking out on you.
I think I'm
Um
good now.
and by the way, thank you for Bridget in the comments just says smash the hearts helps the live visibility. It absolutely does. And, and again, for those of you who subscribe to one of us and not the other, please do so. Um, Cliff, if you could, one of the things that bothers me the most is that, comedians have been largely responsible for this. The podcast bros who would do anything for ratings platformed some of these monsters and took this like things like the male loneliness epidemic and basically instead of being like, hey, in a culture that is so digital it's going to feel a little more isolating, you've got to put more effort to make friends. Instead they just told these young men that they were right to hate everybody and it's everyone's fault but theirs.
Yeah.
What would you say to these other comedians who kind of put us in this mess?
I think one line that you just said that I think is really important for everybody to remember is all these kind of below average, unfuckable incel dudes want it to be everybody's fault except themselves. And it's like, no, dude, it's your fault. It's your it's your fault and the fault of the people that you keep voting for that have made your town a ghost town, that have given tax breaks to the billionaires who have ruined your communities and shut down your small businesses and defunded your schools and polluted your rivers and your air and your soil and everything else. It's your fault, and it's the fault of the people that you think are going to bat for you who never have and never will. And to those comedians, I mean, the first thing I would say is none of you are fucking funny. None of the Theo Vaughn's stand up makes me wish I was born without ears. It's the worst shit I have ever seen. People go, well, he's funny on the podcast. I can do that too, man. I can be like, yo, what's up? I'm Coyote Boy. Let's
I'm
eat
gonna
dog food, fireworks. Like
I'm gonna
anybody
cut
can
in.
do that.
I'm gonna cut in on this for a second because this is one that I take personally. Theo was a close friend of mine for years. He was one of the people I came up with. I toured colleges with him, and his stand up was very funny.
Really?
And yes,
I never experienced it.
and he was one of the best storytellers I ever worked with. He would do these little asides like he was telling a story and part of the story was him being on a date with someone that didn't have any legs. And that wasn't the point of the story, but it was a necessary detail. And he had this line in it where he's like, I'm not making fun of her. It's just some people have no legs and they're in stories also. And like little things like that. I'm like, that's a great line. That's a wonderful line. And what kills me about Theo, and I want to be clear also, I haven't spoken to him in years. What kills me is knowing who he was for so long and having trouble rectifying that with who he has become.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it is something where he just kind of, fell into this and he's a go with the flow person and that is, part of the problem with humans being infinitely adaptable is sometimes when we surround ourselves with assholes, we become one.
Yeah.
Or is this something that he always had inside? Or is he just doing anything for money? And that truly bothers me because I know he's better than this, or he was.
Yeah.
And it hurts. Now, I see some of these other idiots and I go, oh yeah, they were never better than this.
Yeah.
But it is sad to see some of the people who are on that side of things and who use that, oh, I'm just making fun of everybody excuse. And it's like, no, you don't. Why not make fun of criminals and their victims? Like, no, just the criminals.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and people ask me, dumb people, ask me all the time. They'll be like, "Is it hard to be a comedian now with everything so politically correct and cancel culture?" And I always go, "No, man, it's really not, because 'cause I'm not a down punching piece of shit asshole. It's actually real easy."
Yeah.
Like, and I always say to those people, I say, "The people that are most likely to get upset at my comedy are the ones that think other people get upset too easily." That's who gets upset at my comedy. And they
100,
lack the
100%.
self-awareness to even be surprised at themselves.
100%. And it's also the do your own research crowd who doesn't bother to
Oh,
come check who they're going to see.
yeah.
Yeah, it is, you know, people who were progressive 30 years ago, if they didn't evolve with the times, are now right wing because society moves forward.
Yeah.
And so you get people like, that ridiculous quote from Seinfeld where he talked about how like the left is ruining comedy. And it's like, no, you just got old and stayed still.
Yeah. And got
Like,
super rich and greedy and insulated.
and yeah, and out of touch. And that's actually one of the things that, I grew up pretty poor. And, and then coming out of college, trying to make it as a comedian, I was very poor. I think my peak in debt was $68,000 in consumer debt, not including like student loans and stuff like that. Um, and I I can't even fathom living day to day anymore because now I'm comfortable. And I'm so far from it that it's hard for me to even relate. So when I look at the comedians who were born into wealth, like a Chris D'Elia, or the politicians who were born into wealth, like almost all of them.
Yeah.
When I see them talking about what the day to day must be like for most people, I'm like, how the fuck would you know? You have no idea what it's like because I lived it for decades and I don't know what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think something I've said a lot. You always hear people go, "Everybody should have to wait tables," just so you kinda know what it's like. Have you heard people say that?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's a cool thought, but, like, also everybody should have to be a garbage man so that you're not shitty to your garbage man and keep your trash can nasty and put it out at the wrong time and don't do your recycling right. Like,
Yeah.
everybody should have to be a school teacher so that you don't become an asshole and think you know everything and tell other people how to teach kids who have a degree in teaching kids. It's like, we can't all be what each other are. So instead, stop and take 10 deep breaths and try to have some empathy and try and think, you know what? I have no fucking idea what it's like to be this person. I have no idea what it's like to be a pregnant woman who may lose the child and whose life may be in danger, taking account for their medical decisions. I've
Yeah.
never experienced it. I can't possibly feel it. But can I take 10 deep breaths and recognize that it would be hard and stressful and traumatic and heartbreaking, and then come at this topic from a place of just an attempt at empathy? And I think that in a lot of cases, some of these people like Donald Trump because they are like him. They don't like him despite that he's a despicable piece of shit stain on the human race. They like him because he's hateful and ignorant and callous and mean and cruel. It's not something they have to excuse. It's their reason for being on board.
Yeah.
And I think that's really who's left. In my personal opinion, I don't think he won. I don't think he was shot. I think he moved the inauguration indoors because nobody was fucking coming. His 100-day celebration was 1,000 people inside attending and 4,000 outside protesting. The military parade was an absolute failure. Everything he's doing is a weak man pretending to be strong. The support isn't real. It's not there anymore. The only people that really support him, especially enough to go to bat for him or physically fight for him, are the ones with the hat, the sign, the sticker, the sneaker, the flag, and all the rest. And
I
everybody else is either hates him or is like, yeah, I'm not really into it anymore.
I would love to believe that, but I know some people personally who fall under the another category, which is the people who have been tricked. And I understand that, like, you look at it and you go, "How the fuck does anyone not see this?" How
Not
does
see this.
yes, yeah, that was accidental, but worked out. Um, I think that there are people who, have been sold this fear-mongering bill of goods that see what he's doing as the lesser of two evils somehow. And I understand that you look at it with logic and you go, how can that be possible? But I do see it happen. But I have a theory that is based on no scientific studies that may be unpopular. But I believe that the capacity for empathy is biological. The same way that there are people who have a higher capacity for deductive reasoning and learning, but the information is given to them. We all have various different capabilities. Some people, and whether that is, how quickly did you learn how to tie your shoes? Or, what's your sense of direction? Or are you good with other languages? Like everybody has this differently. And I think that there are people who are simply born with a very low capacity for empathy. There are people who it has never occurred to me when I walk my dog, the idea of leaving the shit behind has never occurred to me. There has never been a moment where I've just been like, well, it would be easier for me. Even when I realize, oh my God, I'm out of bags, I have found a way to like root through trash till I found a newspaper, find a giant leaf, like anything to not do that to another human being.
Yeah.
And when you see these responses, when people are like, well, I voted for Trump, but I didn't think he'd deport my family. It's like, why not? Because you thought he'd deport other people's families and that would be okay. And it's until it happens to them that they don't realize it. And I think that on one hand, I want to judge someone for a lack of empathy. On the other hand, I look at it and I go, it's not fair to judge someone for being born shorter than me. I don't like being judged for not being able to tan. There are just certain things that we were given and we weren't given. And I am worried that there are a lot of people out there who simply don't have the capacity to understand problems until they go through them themselves.
Well, you said some people don't have the ability to feel empathy, and I agree. They call them psychopaths. And
Fair, fair.
that's kind of what I'm getting at is the only ones that are still really on board. They like him because he's like them. Um, I do think his support is dwindling. I think a lot of people are leaving. And I think it's really important for everyone on the left to acknowledge that and to acknowledge it and speak it into existence and tell others.
Yeah,
I don't really care if the right believes it or not. I really want us to believe it. He's not as strong as he acts like he is. He's not as popular as we're scared he might be. His support is dwindling. There are way, way more of us, and it's time to do whatever we got to do to get him removed from office. These people are psychopaths. They are public. They're public about their disdain for democracy, their disdain for even the idea that poor people might get to vote at all, let alone black or brown people or women or gay people. They have a disdain for poor people being willing to vote. Curtis Yarvin talks about all that all the time, and he's their little Yoda. They all
yeah.
love this Curtis Yarvin guy, who's really a dipshit who's never really done anything.
It's so
But JD
weird.
Vance,
I just need to cut in for a second. It's so weird that all these people that they look up to are really losers.
yeah, just do nothing, below average simpletons.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Curtis Yarvin has a high IQ, but he's never used it to do anything of any consequence. But JD Vance is on a recording saying the United States needs to get over its dictator phobia. The vice
Yeah.
president of our country thinks we should get over our dictator phobia while he's being backed by his whole life, literally bankrolled by Peter Thiel, who was recently interviewed and asked, should the human race survive? And he couldn't answer. He was like, well, um, and then the guy was like, do human rights matter? And he's like, I mean, it's kind of a complicated question. So it's like that's who these people are. They don't intend to relinquish any power in any way.
Yeah.
So it is now time to exhaust every single possibility and effort to resist them peacefully.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear about that. Like, I want every single possible peaceful avenue to be pursued. But I am also worried that they they do not plan to relinquish power, period. Um, and in that case, I want the American people to know there are way more of us than there are of them, and our allies support us. All the other democracies on earth support us. And that's why I'm trying so hard to go after what I think is their infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know, I think Fox News is literally the Nazi disinformation infrastructure. I think we should be putting constant pressure on every single Fox affiliate around the country. And we should all be familiarizing ourselves with those buildings and where they are and how many doors they have and the comings and goings and what days they're closed. And, you know,
Well, and I wanted to make sure that, anyone who follows me knows what it is that you're doing with boots on the ground. And, I do need to wrap up, and it's always good to talk to you, man. And,
you too.
I'm so proud of what you're doing. And because there are so many comedians who are just like, but if I say something, I might not sell tickets. Like, just shut up. Like, we got into comedy in order to make a difference, in order to say something. So for anyone who does not already subscribe to Cliff, please do so. If you want to come see me on tour, I've got lots of dates on my website and all that stuff. I want to emphasize what Cliff just said, in that violence is a last resort. It is not a first resort.
Yeah.
Um, Now, that said, Cliff, can you tell people what it is that you're doing, organizing, and how they can learn more about it?
Yeah. So the first thing I did, I started a website called Donald Loves Vladimir, and it really outlines all their connections to each other, Trump's connections to Russia going back to 87, to the Russian mafia, to money laundering, to different oligarchs, Russia's involvement in his real estate. From there, I kind of just started organizing my own protest. I worked with other people like Jessica Denson from Lights On, and we formed nowmarch.org. And we tried to get people to come and basically beg Congress to talk about the 14th Amendment before the certification of votes. And no one did. This guy is constitutionally disqualified from being president, and it's in black and white. And not even the bravest liberal in Congress was even willing to speak about it while certifying the votes. Um, from there, we organized a big veterans protest. And then I did Fox News protest. We had about 700 people at the Fox News in DC and about the same number of people at the Heritage Foundation in DC. And from March, I started working really hard to try to get those to be weekly, even though I couldn't be there weekly because I live in North Carolina and I tour full time. So those are finally weekly. So I now have, I didn't start it, but this group called FLARE, which stands for Liberation and Resistance Everywhere. They're Flare USA on every social media app. The website is flareusa.org. And they are on the ground 24/7 in DC. They're protesting at the Heritage Foundation every Monday. These are the people, all of this legislation, from ICE to tariffs to the pressure on the colleges, uh, trying to stifle any dissent from law firms, all of that is out of the Heritage Foundation. It's all Project 2025. And for the record, these people are giving interviews and saying, we're thrilled. This is happening way faster than our wildest dreams. That's what they're saying. And that should make every progressive American want to surround their building. Uh,
I do want to add also, if anyone has not seen Cliff's videos of this, it's not just important, it's fun. Like,
yeah,
the just watching you with the megaphone just tease the people coming out of the Heritage Foundation is just a delight. And in times like these, people often feel helpless and they're like, "Well, what can I do?" Well, you can troll a Nazi. I mean, that's fun.
yeah.
Go do that.
And that's the thing. Like, so we go to the Heritage Foundation, we go there at 4, and we take cowbells, pots and pans, whistles. megaphones, air horns, which are like bear horns, aerosol, like the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life. And we just blast them at the building while these people are trying to work. They have
Work.
20 police officers there every Monday. They know we're coming. One day we're going to switch it up and disappoint them and surprise them. But when they get off between 5, 5:30, 6, we walk them to their cars just to help out. And while we're walking them to their cars, we scream at them from about an inch from their face with megaphones and call them Nazis and fascists and traitors and let them know that when the time comes, we will be holding them accountable. And they dislike it very, very much. But the internet likes it. The videos are all going viral. But we're doing that every Monday at the Heritage Foundation in DC. We're putting pressure on Fox News in DC. I now have 13 Fox takedown protests happening around the United States. I don't have them all memorized, but it's like Sacramento, Tampa, St. Louis, Bethesda, Cleveland, DC, New York City, Phoenix, a bunch of places around the country. And our goal is to get Fox pressure, big Fox protest at every affiliate around the United States. And then once we have that infrastructure, I want to do a national day of action like these other groups are doing,
Yeah.
except here's the day, the protest for the day for this Monday or whatever it is. Everybody in the United States, go to your local Fox affiliate and let's get millions of people collectively outside these buildings to say, stop lying to the American people. Fox has already settled a $787 million lawsuit for knowingly and admittedly lying. You don't settle lawsuits like that if you think you can win them. They knew they couldn't because they know they're liars. So much so that they just took a video of Donald Trump's failed military parade and added fake applause tracks to it, like a bad comedian. They're just adding applause that wasn't there. And you can watch, it might take you a minute to find it on our now dishonest internet, but you can watch the original video and hear the crickets, and then you can watch the Fox video and hear the clapping and whatever. So that's two things we're doing: Heritage, Fox. Flair is also leading every single Monday in Washington, D.C. They are leading average citizens like you and me into the halls of Congress, going into offices and saying to the GOP, this is fascism. It's going to fail. It always does. And when it fails, we are letting you know you are going to be held accountable by the American people, not just the representative, but everybody working in this office. We are
Now,
going to keep up with you. And we're going to hold you accountable.
Cliff, if you could just let people know, before we say goodbye here, let people know, how do they follow you? How do they find more information about this stuff?
Yeah, I'm Cliff Cash Comedy on all platforms. 2 F's, Cliff like cliffhanger, Cash like Johnny. Cliff Cash Comedy on all platforms. And I'm talking about it enough on my social media that you can't miss it. I post
Okay, fair
about these
enough.
things every day. So
Excellent. And of course, DonaldLovesVladimir.com has a bunch of stuff as well.
And my new website is Epstein'sBestFriend.com.
Excellent. I'm surprised that wasn't taken. I'm surprised you didn't buy that for him for Valentine's Day.
Right.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in. The Substack community is absolutely incredible. I know, Cliff, you're fairly new to Substack, but we hope your numbers grow because you deserve it. I wanted to show you just how supportive and progressive a lot of the people on this are. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I got another couple lives coming up soon, and hope to see you on tour as well. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, buddy. I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Cliff. Bye.